your mind against you for a good time. You just might be exposed to things you didn't know about before.
So I have a theory that I have been holding on to for a long time, and my dog is not going to let me get it out, but I'm going to anyway. I should make sure that doesn't get on camera. You couldn't see that, could you?
No, I'm not even looking at the camera.
Oh, shit. I'll have to make sure that didn't get in there. Anyway, so one of the people that I was graced with the insights of and got an unusual amount of communication out of for how bizarre that is John Mcafee. McAfee. I have
Is
always
it McAfee or
it's McAfee,
how do you
but
say it?
yeah, no, so he doesn't care how people say it. The proper pronunciation is McAfee. Fucking since I was a kid, I was pronouncing the program as McAfee. So I call it McAfee. That is not accurate. It's actually McAfee. Anyway, so, and I mean the spelling's right, but it's just pronounced a little different. You know, it's McAfee because it's fucking. That's not an American word. I believe it's Scottish or Irish, one of the two. Anyway, so if you go back through the records of the show, one of the first people that got interviewed, actually our very first interview for Amateur Reality Hackers was Janice McAfee, John's widowed ex-wife, and I say it in that weird context because they got divorced before he died, but she was basically his ride or die up till the end. You know what I mean? So despite the fact legally they had separated, they never actually separated. And I mean, she loved him quite dearly, and that's very obvious in how she communicates about him now and about how passionate, I'll call it, they were for each other when they were together. Because when things were good, it seemed like they were incredible, and it seemed like when things were rough, they got really rough real quick, and then we're back to passionate and happy again. Anyway, so John was a notorious liar. And I don't mean that the man fibbed without cause or fibbed in ways that were malicious or intended to hurt anyone. But he would, for example, say, "Calm down. Thank you. You were a good boy, but there's no need for that." He would say things like, that he'd fucked a whale, for example. And, obviously that's bullshit. And there's actually a picture that he had posted on his Twitter of a guy that looked very similar to him fucking a dead whale on a beach, and had implied that was him, and he had made a joke about whale fucking. Now, what he was actually talking about was arbitrage happening inside of the cryptocurrency community, and the concept of fucking crypto whales is kind of what I always thought. Yeah. And, the amount of weight he was actually pulling around in that community. However, that's just an example of the kind of trollish but non-malicious lie he would tell. That's not hurting anyone. Maybe PETA would get pissed at most, but what that is going to do is take every fucking degenerate, unusual, edge, cringe person out there, for example, anyone that liked Filthy Frank, which is millions of fucking people, and it's going to catch their attention because here's this weird eccentric fucking millionaire running around talking about whale fucking on Twitter with 1 million followers, right? And then a few posts before, he is giving detailed security advice, or he's posting a interview that he did with Fox News about the CIA. And so it was a very interesting juxtaposition to his life. He's an amazing character, but I was always under the impression that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. Now, I need to kind of give that some context. I don't think he created Bitcoin. I think he was the team lead and developer for a group of 12 people that were running out of other countries that were his coders. I believe some of those coders are pretty already documented, you know what I mean? But it was originally a team of 12, was my understanding from all the rumors that were floating around, okay, and that this team of 12 was working in conjunction with a team lead, which was Satoshi Nakamoto, and this whole thing was happening on a CIA contract. The point of that CIA contract was to create a cryptocurrency that would also act as a hidden honeypot to attract major criminal families and sexual predators into the fold and have them use this system for exchanges that is now decentralized, denationalized. There is no way for any bad actor to hide the record of what they have fucking done. And because there is a way for people to take that data and decrypt it and get that knowledge from it, now you have a permanent ledger of every major fucking sex crime that has happened because of Bitcoin and because of this honeypot trap that was set by it. And if you go back through and look at the Epstein case, Epstein sure as fuck was using Bitcoin. In fact, he had a very massive staple in it. I don't think that was by coincidence. I think that might have been the exact network someone was trying to map out. And so the context of why I think John is Satoshi, I am happy to elaborate on because that's going to take quite a bit. Now, I know one of the first things people would say is, hey, when Bitcoin was created, it was released in 2009. It was probably worked on, gosh, I can't remember at what point it was started working on. I'm going to say 2006 or 2000. Yeah, I don't even want to guess. I'm not sure at what point the original Satoshi papers came out that show him starting to work on it. But because all of this was done remotely, and John's a security expert and understands the concept of VPNs, which he made very, very clear, and VPSs, that there is no reason at all that he couldn't have a VPS back in his home state of California, where he spent most of his time doing his computer work, like making McAfee antivirus, which is a fact that was given to me by Janice, actually. You cannot minimize when you are recording this meeting. Okay, well, I won't minimize then, you stupid shit. Yeah, so John apparently had taken Janice to the house that his antivirus was created in at one point, and it was in the Bay Area of California, which is right around where basically my train of facts goes. So the one person that we know with absolute certainty was involved with Bitcoin from the very, very early beginnings was one of the main coders. Now, he wouldn't have been an international coder. He would have been a coder from California, and other people will know him as Hal Finney. Hal Finney was a game designer and also a general coder. I believe that he was involved in the original Tron game. And he ended up dying of I believe it was Lou Gehrig syndrome.
Is that who Ready Player One is based off of?
Maybe, I'm not
Have
sure.
you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't, but I mean, it could quite possibly be. But
It's got this developer who was like old school, and it sounds like this. The name is familiar to that. And the funny thing is that he dies.
yeah, no, and so
His legacy like lives on inside the game or something. Like, I don't know.
that's interesting. Yeah, so it was either Lou Gehrig's disease or MS, or it was, he died of, I think it was Lou Gehrig's disease. But it was a very, very rapid terminal illness that basically reduced him down to a wheelchair and being incapable of movement very rapidly, right? He was the first person to ever get a transaction for Bitcoin. Hal Finney got this transaction for Bitcoin from the original Satoshi Nakamoto, who he had a personal relationship with. They communicated just like Satoshi did with all the other coders, but the way they communicated with each other and the fact that he got this first payout essentially from the initial mining that ever happened with Bitcoin, and that he was recipient number one, essentially, is what we'll call him. The first, exchange ever in the ledger of Bitcoin. It's pretty clear that he had a special connection to Satoshi that the other coders didn't, right? And for a long time, people have actually speculated that Hal was the designer of Bitcoin, and his wife, who had no reason to lie, basically said, "Nope, not true. I have proof." Okay, so what would have been going on in John's life at this point? Would he have been running from the Belizean government right about now, because his he had gone there to expose a bunch of corruption. He was in the process of exposing it. Then all of a sudden his dogs get killed. Then his neighbor dies. He gets blamed for his neighbor's death. Did he kill his neighbor because his neighbor killed his dogs? Was it one group trying to set him up for murder so that way they could go after him because he was fucking, coming to the truth about all the extortion and corruption in that area? Personally, knowing John, I think it was the latter, and that anything else would be just a cover up because clearly the guy did some work for the CIA. So the idea that he could cover some shit up, not that fucking surprising. Anyway, so he would have been in this situation where he would have wanted to leave a legacy, and he would have wanted to do something that could have dramatically changed the world. Right now, thanks to the Federal Reserve and fractional banking, the world is just a giant global hierarchy of slaves, if that makes sense, with a very small percentage at the top, and the rest of us are just their bitches at different levels of comfort, right? And that has to do with this Federal Reserve problem, this fractional banking problem that exists, and the manipulation of wealth through things like Wall Street. And so the original Satoshi was adamantly against altcoins. And that is because I believe John was also Nicholas von Saberhagen, which was the pseudonymous, how's that word said? I don't know. Creator of Monero, which is the equivalent of digital cash. And if you would have had these two things that existed, this Monero option and this Bitcoin option, you would have had a digital anonymous currency that could have freed the people operating on one end, and then a more popular, more seductive coin working on the other end that acts as a honeypot for criminals and bad actors, right? And so the original Satoshi did not want altcoins at all. And as soon as the one fucking landed, all of a sudden Satoshi disappears. Actually, it was after Hal Finney talked to the CIA and then passed away. Satoshi disappeared, which is why people thought it was him. But I think essentially Hal Finney talked to the CIA and was like, here's what I know. Here was the plans. Everything, happened like this. And that probably just confirmed to them that their job was done accurately. At which point they contacted John and were like, hey, you can back the fuck down at this point. Like it's done. Like you're good. It's out there. And so you good?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
That you like bumped your mic and it made some crazy
My bad.
No, you're good. Anyway, altcoins come out with Litecoin, which is basically just a fucking carbon copy of Bitcoin with a faster network transaction to steal money from that community is the best way I can put it. And steal isn't the right word. It wasn't theft. It wasn't a scam. They delivered exactly what he said he was gonna, and the creator of it got out at the top and was like, yeah, that was the whole point. Make money. What the fuck are you guys talking about? And so as soon as Litecoin came out, then all of a sudden there was this new Monero that came out. And it was almost like Satoshi said, well, fuck it. I'm off this project. I have all the money from the project. They already fucked my whole thing up by coming out with an altcoin, which is going to eventually destroy it. Like it has. That's the entire legitimacy of the market has been crumpled by altcoins and scam projects that come through them. You know what I mean? And not to say that all projects that exist in the cryptocurrency sphere are scams. I actually think a lot less of the technology is a scam than people give it credit for. But just in general, because of the actors that have gotten involved and the fact that, what was meant to be one or two selections has become this thriving capitalist market, much like Wall Street, that just basically extorts stupid people. That wasn't the original mission, So back to Hal. Was there a connection between PGP and John Mcafee? That's kind of one of the first things you have to pull into Sphere here for this theory to work. Now, PGP was pretty good privacy. This was a company that works on encrypted messaging systems. And so you can take PGP and use it to send messages to people that only they'll be able to understand because they have a private half of a key, you have the public half of their key. And so I wrote out some questions and notes for myself, is why it's going to sound awkward for a second. Yeah, there was a connection between PGP and John. PGP is the encryption software created by Phil Zimmerman, which allows users to secure their email communications. John Mcafee was an early investor in PGP and helped promote the software and make it more widely known. In fact, he was instrumental in setting up the first public server for PGP. I haven't verified that, more than one source, but that was the source I found, what they were saying, which helped to make it more accessible to users around the world, which makes total sense. John was always a massive proponent for ethical hacking, which is basically, not click kids stealing credit cards, but like people trying to find information that could help humanity and making it publicly available and making software publicly available and those kind of things. It's an ethic of computers can make the world better for any person if they're properly utilized, and that all information should be free. While McAfee, I'm going to start saying his goddamn name right, later became better known for his work in the antivirus software industry and his involvement in crypto, his early involvement with PGP played an important role in the development of the software and the broader field of encryption technology, though just a side note in his overall career. So that's the connection between PGP and John. So
Okay.
who was the first person to receive Bitcoin? We already went over that part.
So I got a question about that though.
Yeah, no, go for it.
So you said it's a ledger, right? It can go all the way back, track every single transaction.
Yes, 100%.
So it's possible to go and check that fact, right? You'd be like, well, if you can, you know how to look at it, you could test what you're saying essentially and see that is who in fact received the first Bitcoin.
Oh, no, that's verified. That's 100% verified. It was sent from Satoshi to Hal Finney. That is without question.
Right, but I mean, like somebody could literally use the blockchain to prove that.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that's what I meant by it being a honeypot, is going into it for the first few years. Everyone thought that it was because it was encrypted and it was complicated and it was above most people's technological prowess, you know what I mean? That it meant that they were completely safe and there was no way for anyone to ever find out who they were if they used it to exchange large amounts of money for really fucked up shit. But nope, it was the exact opposite. Instead, it was just a permanent ledger. Like I for many years actually ran my own Bitcoin node. And when you run a Bitcoin node, I had a copy of that entire fucking ledger on a special computer I built, which meant that if the entire Bitcoin network went down, I literally could go to someone and be like, oh, here it is. Here's the fucking copy of every goddamn thing those shady sons of bitches did. And there's thousands of computers like that all across the world. And so that it becomes a situation where it is impossible to make that information disappear. It's a beautiful, beautiful trap, in my opinion. So Hal was the first one to get Bitcoin, and this actually has more information, so I'll still read what I have. Finney was sent 10 Bitcoin by the mysterious person or group of people known as Satoshi Nakamoto, and the reason it would have seemed like a group is because John wasn't personally, he had the concepts. He was a developer. He wasn't the one getting down deep and dick dirty in the code, which means from the beginning he had to have a team of people to work with. That's when I developed FTS Coin, I had to have a team from the very beginning. I've developed several apps. I've had to have teams from the very beginning for those. It's just, you don't go into a major coding project and not represent a group. You know what I mean? If you're the leader of said group. So he was sent 10 Bitcoin on January 12, 2009, just a few days after the first block of Bitcoin transaction was mined. The transaction was a part of a test of the Bitcoin network and did not have any significant value at the time. However, as the value of Bitcoin grew over time, the 10 Bitcoins that Finney received became worth a significant amount of money. Finney passed away in 2014, but he is remembered as one of the early pioneers of the Bitcoin movement, as well as being the first person to recognize Bitcoin's electricity problem and the fact that the electrical demands of Bitcoin need to be neutralized in some way. So, I mean, Hal was a good guy. Like, not only did he care about the mission behind Bitcoin and the actual activism potential of it, but he saw the fault. He from the start went, whoa, we fucked up. This is using way too much power once it gets big. If this keeps growing at the rate it is, it's going to just fucking start sucking up electricity at the rate Vegas does. And he was right. Now,
And you know
is
that
that,
comment?
hmm,
You know that comment I made
yeah,
about Ready Player One? So
yeah,
he died in 2014, right?
yeah.
So Ready Player One was made in 2018, and the character's name is James Halliday.
That's interesting. Yeah, I
Just
mean, it
thought that
very
was an
could.
interesting
Yeah, no,
fact.
it could be very well be about Hal. I mean, Hal is a cool guy, and anyone that even gives him a slight nod in anything is God damn it, I got bit by a bug with the foot. No, anyone that gives him a slight nod in anything is cool in my opinion. So did Hal work for PGP? Yes, Hal Finney did work for pretty good privacy. In fact, he was the earliest adopter and supporter of the software, which he believed was a crucial tool for protecting individual privacy and civil liberties. Finney was a noted cryptographer and computer programmer who made important contributions to the development of public key cryptography, which is the basis for PGP and other encryption systems. Because of that, he was one of the original coders and consultants for PGP. He was also involved in the development of the first anonymous remailer, which was another important tool for protecting online privacy. While Finney is best known for his contributions to the development of Bitcoin, his early work on encryption and privacy tools such as PGP played an important role in the shaping of the landscape of online security and privacy. So you have John, who is completely aware of how to make himself appear to be in California, which is where the IP address for Satoshi's computer is, which is why I keep going back to that. From the Bitcoin code, you're even able to decipher the IP address that the fucking money came from. And so that Satoshi computer's in Cali, but if it's just a VPS run out of a fucking VPN, that means he's somewhere else tunneling through an encrypted network to make it look like he's in Cali, and then utilizing a computer stationed in Cali for his own benefit, right? Which would be the best way to do something like this and cover your ass. And so did Hal know John? I kind of came to that they're both prominent figures. They both ran in the same circles. That they both, were in the same cryptography shit. That there was no definitive evidence though. And so I kind of came to the conclusion that maybe that's where the path ended and that John wouldn't have known him. And so when I was bringing up this theory to Janice, who would have, been the one to know best, she said that's all very interesting. One correction though, and I don't think it's the direction you'd expect. John was actually out of California, not Florida, for most of his life. He took me to the house where the antivirus was created. It was in the Bay Area, so it's actually quite possible he knew Hal well. I can't say for sure, but that is all very interesting indeed to me. So, in my head, that's not, direct confirmation, but that's enough to say, that's fucking more interesting than not interesting,
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So that's kind of my theory, that there's a lot more that goes into it. Like, for example, John's story. I watched enough of his interviews and followed his stuff, kind of with a Asperger's type fucking hyperfocus for a while. Enough that I noticed that his story about Bitcoin and when he learned about cryptocurrency and how he learned about it changed. And like at one point it was an employee that had told him about mining. At another point it was someone that told him about trading. And like the guy drank a lot. He did a lot of drugs. He was a fun guy. But he also was very lucid. And I don't think that if he was telling the truth, it wouldn't have kept switching between fanciful stories for how he originally found out about cryptocurrency. He also was running behind the scenes in most cryptocurrency groups. He was friends with basically there's this company called Antminer, which Bitmain, that does something called Antminer, which was like one of the original ASIC units that just concentrated on mining Bitcoin and like really upped the fucking whole market of the thing and really added more value to it by creating this potential for like corporations to do it as a business. John knew him closely. And so John somehow had his fingers in every important figure that was involved in Bitcoin And unless he was the guy that had, and I mean, he helped me with my cryptocurrency. And I got to tell you, his depth of understanding of every single topic that had to do with crypto, his understanding of fucking CryptoNote mixers, which is the protocol behind Monero, his concept and understanding of how every single fucking aspect of this works had to be one of two things. Either that was his baby or he was fucking more autistic than I was. And I never got the sense that guy was autistic. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so that's the theory. I'm pretty sure that John McAfee was Satoshi Nakamoto. And yeah. What do you think about that, dude?
Man, well, first off, that was a lot of information.
Yeah. Sorry, info dump.
Yeah. I think it's great. I like the fact that we have something that is a ledger, like we talked about, how you can look at even the very first transaction, and like prove like what you were saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
this
Well,
guy
and
was
see,
the first to receive.
well, and check this out. This is actually what's interesting about NFTs. So people run around saying that NFTs are a scam, right? That's like saying that guns kill people. NFTs aren't a scam. They're a fucking very well designed tool because what you've now created is a permanent ledger of every exchange for a piece of art. That piece of art might be on a digital medium, right? But think about how much goddamn fraud there is in the upper echelons of the fine art world. It's millions of dollars of fraud, bro. Like there's people that have made their whole life millionaire fucking rock star lives just off stealing paintings, right? And fucking recreating fake paintings and that kind of shit. And with this permanent ledger activity that you have going, you can prove who created the file and every single person that's ever owned it. So you know if you actually have the real one. And so like all these people running around like the Logan Paul crypto zoo shit and all that. Yeah, NFTs are not a fucking game. They're literally a digital tag that should be attached to collectibles. You know what I mean? Like a QR code to prove every single person, or like a laser engraving on something that proves every single person that's ever owned it, because every time it changes hands, the financial exchange is done through the NFT that's connected to it, which generates this permanent ledger that's provable and easily pulled up. Or it's for fine high-end pieces of digital art and the exchanges that happen on those just like they would any other fine art. And so just because people are fucking using the tool wrong, the fact that they run around saying it's a scam has been driving me nuts. Sorry, random side tangent, but I just wanted to get that out there.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I was just gonna finish my thought.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
The cool thing about that I was thinking was how you can basically track down human traffickers with this, and more
Yes.
importantly, child trafficking.
Yes,
And
100%.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm gonna go back to something you sent me earlier. That song titled Donald Trump,
Oh, yeah.
right? I don't think we've had more child trafficking arrests than when he had his administration.
Yeah. Yeah. When did he go into office again? Was that 2016?
That was like the beginning of 2017.
Yeah. Okay.
And basically that's 2018, I believe, is when Epstein got popped.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of what hatched all of this chaos almost upon us. You know what I mean? Like that was one hell of a bee's nest to cake.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And it has been just a spiral of shitstorm since then. I mean, Jesus Christ, you'd rather give us the fucking rub down about aliens than Epstein's client list, which is like available right now.
Yeah, how
Out
crazy
there.
is that?
It's an interesting thing. Like, I love that meme. It's like, oh, so we're gonna find out aliens are real before we find out who fucking Epstein's clients were. That's great. Thank you.
And okay, tinfoil hat time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now the thing that rhymes with Maury Povid
Oh yeah,
uh
yeah.
uh was a whole well, what's the word I want to say here? Basically a distraction from Epstein.
I mean, I think that was part of it. I have a lot of things that we can talk about on that on Rumble sometime. You want to do a Rumble fucking episode one of these days and talk about because
I think that would
I
be
don't think
good.
we're allowed to talk about all of it on here.
No.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
Something in my throat. It's a lie.
I don't want to die.
But yeah, man. So that's my theory. And people are also gonna say, well, if it was John, there's a bunch of evidence that he was a scammer and he helped scammers and that all he cared about was money and all this other shit. Maybe. I mean, I think it's more likely that John would be the kind of guy that would see this mission, see the position he was in, create fucking Bitcoin, and then just never goddamn write down the seeds to the original wallets, which is why he never spent any of it. Like, I agree that the guy has the same fucking vice I do, where he could be pretty impulsive and he liked drugs and he liked the drink. But hey, you're okay. Come here, you're a good boy. I think he was smart enough to protect himself from himself when it came to something he really cared about, if that makes sense.
It does.